You all know what has been happening in this country over the past couple of years. There have been a lot of demonstrations by people with weird hats or also without weird hats, and that kind of took over, and so there were counter demonstrations. And I'm from Berlin, I'm a chaos member from Berlin, and there was one demonstration in May which there was a shorthand notice by many people called AfD wegpassen, with a call to demonstrate, and suddenly the streets were full. And I was like, that's great, we need more of this. So I'm very happy to have the people here from Reclaim Club Culture and the people from Rosa Rave, and they are going to talk about this. So I'm glad you're here, and also that our speakers are here about this topic of club culture, protest and anti-fascist resistance. Please welcome to the stage the speakers. Oh, we are seeing in translation. We are not seeing the translation. We are having text.
We just heard the number of this demonstration. It's about 50,000, we guess.
Club Culture.
We are Reclaim Club Culture. We are a group of clubs, activists, organizations organizing events, and we are trying to do the thing we are doing, club life, nightlife, and trying to imagine this in a better way. There was an anti-fascist youth organization, and they were shouting their perils, and there is a lot of people from different groups, from different types of movements, and they were also all here on the streets. It's a very mixed group. We are trans, we are lesbians, we are people of color, we are queer. We are Berliners, people from Berlin. We are feminists. We are old, we are young. We are left, we are diverse. We are many people. Who's the people talking about a German leading culture didn't really understand it. When the AfD is talking about culture, they are only talking about Germany. They are not talking about our culture. They are attacking our culture. So these are a couple of posters which were used to call to the streets, to call for the demonstration.
Dankeschön.
Thank you. This short movie clip we dedicated to the protest form of dancing and to give context for historical context for what happened in May, and not to only talk about it, but also to show what happened there and what energy was there. I am Rosa Reif. I'm an artistical figure made by Reclaim Club Culture to do public relations. Today we are talking about anti-fascist resistance. What we are going to talk about today, first we are going to talk about Reclaim culture and how it came to the demonstration AfD wegpassen and what were our backgrounds. Then we are going to talk about our demonstrations and actions, and next it's about anti-fascist resistance and the potential of club culture, and then we want to ask everyone here, how do we proceed? What is Reclaim Club Culture? Reclaim Club Culture is a mix of a collective, a network. We are a lot of clubs, festivals, clubs from the region, from other cities. In the German-speaking region, we are in contact with a lot of them, and we want to do this in a transnational way. To sum it up quickly, it's about creating spaces of freedom, and on the other side, to reach out of these spaces so that the whole society is a space of freedom and a party. Among other things, we did the AfD wegpassen demonstration in May. We were founded in 2016. In the beginning, we were discussing a lot, and we were sharing knowledge within each other. And we did this booklet called Reclaim Club Culture, Reclaim Your Culture, Reclaim Club Culture, and we are talking about questions we have been thinking about and what solutions we came up with. And while we were reflecting about how we are doing culture, this movement to the right was happening globally in Europe and in Germany, and there was the talk about the fight from the right, about culture, and we were thinking culture, that's our topic, so we could do this better than the right-wing people. So, and we think party is a great form of action. The awareness of small leftist parties is also come to the more mainstream, and regarding sexuality, it can bring people to the future. So club culture is the area we are winning in. So maybe that's a foundation to work against the right. So among other things, at 34C3, we did a day of workshops where we wanted to talk about our strategy with everyone here. And one of the topics we were talking about was what actually is that thing that the right-wing people are doing there. So we wanted to start a movement. I'm calling this to bring, it's a German term he was using. So,
this is the ugly cultural fight from the right. The people who are calling themselves the new right are doing a lot of discourse work. They use a method of a leftist philosopher, Gramsci. He is an Italian philosopher. He actually developed things Marx said, and this method is used now. Gramsci says that power is working about economy, and there are political spaces, and this political space is where culture is developing and where cultural things are in relation with each other and where things are developed. And political actors want to have a position of power in this political space, and they want to give they want to have this position of power. The new right is quite successful with this. They have new methods. They realized that National Socialism isn't really en vogue in Germany, so they try not to
not to refer to National Socialists in a positive way, but instead they are referring to conservatives. So, for example, they are referring to the FDP, the Liberal Party, and they're one symbol of the fight about this pre-political space. So, they are not actually doing the fascism, but they are doing a way of proto-fascism. That's how a lot of left groups are calling it, and also journalists are calling using this and are calling them right-wing populists. But actually what we can say about it is that they emulate proto-fascism to create fascism. So if we are looking at the statements of the AfD, they want direct democracy to weaken parliaments, and actually that's a fake. They don't want to ask the people, but they already know what the people want. And on the other side, they want a very strong president, and they want a presidential republic, like the Weimar Republic. And this philosophical context and the referral back to the structural strategies. So it's about emulating proto-fascism to create fascism. With emulating, what I want to say is I was playing back in the day. I was playing with the old Nintendo console, and what I'm using now is a computer to recreate this experience from this old gaming console, and this is the parallel for how this works.
But this stops being funny if the same things happen like they did happen in National Socialism. So you can say really that the AfD in Germany does refer to Weimar Republic, and that's what we want to fight against. These discourse strategies are the occupation of the pre-political room. What is decided in the parliament is decided there. They use different rhetorical tactics. Probably you have heard about them. They break taboos and they defend in a very neutral way, but attack very fiery. They put themselves in a victim position to acquire strength through this. They try to make legends which they want to defend. They say it was always like this and we have to defend how it was always. They use the cultural technique of paranoia and they try to find very simple explanations.
Das alles sind Schablonen. So.
All these are
entwickelt worden. Und die werden auch in Schulungen weitergegeben.
Pictures and they made those and they teach those among each others. They are great for the right-wing people, that makes them foreseeable, but everyone can use them. What does that mean for us in the pre-political room? For us as left people, it is known that the right people also occupy places like firefighters, clubs, associations, but yeah, also clubs and stuff are political room. They, which left has to occupy too. There's the question of finance, and it's quite a difficult thing. There is this extremism theory.
Ein Angriff gefahren, so auf allen Ebenen.
All of the right are attacking all levels, all actors, which are read as left, as different. We can speak of this as a war to foster a right hegemonial structure. This is also what the AfD is saying about AfD wegpassen. They made an inquiry in the Berlin Parliament where they were asking, what does the Senate say about the difference of all of Berlin hates the AfD and it's against hate? So the Senate reacts by saying there is no event registered which said all of Berlin hates the AfD. Who registered this demonstration? The Senate doesn't know about a demonstration with this name. The AfD's work is very much bullshit, and it still works. And even though it's badly researched, and it still works. And what does it actually do when they know what private people are behind this? But they don't even find out how the demonstration is named. So, but what happens if they find out? Is a troll army coming? And in 2017, the first time since 1945, a fascist party entered the German parliament, and the legitimization given to them by this election, they wanted to be supported by people on the streets, by having a big demonstration in Berlin, and so we came to the AfD wegpassen.
Danke, Rosa Rave.
Thank you, Rosa Rave. For the next part, I'm going to talk about the demonstration AfD wegpassen, and I will focus on about the ideas we had behind the demonstration. So first, about the call for action. Berlin's club culture is everything the Nazis aren't. We are progressive, queer, feminist, anti-racist, inclusive, colorful, and we have unicorns. On our dance floors, people from all types of different backgrounds come together with all types of sexual identities, with a good taste. on the other side, AfD and Pegida are repressive, heteronormative, anti-feminist and racist, and that's a picture of society they are projecting. This very clear statement, we published this statement 3 weeks before this demonstration, and a lot of collectives followed this call for action from an impulse to do something, because this is not how it can go on. We started organizing this protest in the way we can do the best to motivate, to be self-organized, and with a lot of base. What we had learned in club culture and in festivals, and we were very good at finding quick solutions for problems. We built a awareness structure, and we had a lot of runners from the nightclub scene, and they were very helpful at the demonstration. I want to talk about the ideas behind the demonstration. The demonstration itself was a piece of a puzzle in coordination with other actions organized by other organizations. There were 3 demonstrations by AfD Wegpassen, and there were a couple of other demonstrations registered with other groups. There was a demonstration on the water, and there was a family-friendly organization. So the protest which came to the street was very diverse. On the other hand, the decision to do this collaboration not as a classical collaborative helped us to be more free about the organization, but also about how the content of each demonstration was formed. A second idea was what I would like to call carnival of opportunities. I mean by this that it was important to us to support each other regarding the anti-fascist fight in different ways of actions. It wasn't about agreeing on one type of action, but everyone on the streets was following the same goal, to not let any space in the city be given up to the AfD. All actors, in their own ways, tried to take the space away from the AfD. This openness in the organization was also reflected within our inner structures. All parts of the demonstration could act autonomously. They could create their organizations and the demonstration independently, how it looked like. There was an agreement to not only have white cis men on giving the speeches and doing the music, so it was a collective motivation to do this. It was involved with a lot of work, and this motivation I didn't see this until I came this work to this Congress. The other aspect was in relation to the press. It's often about one person being representative towards the press, and we wanted to find a way to be representative towards the press, which is not representative in a classical way. So we came up with the idea of Rosa Rave, who came up to the stage and were talking to the press about what we were doing. This role is played by a lot of people. During the demonstration, there was a whole group of people taking on this role. They were doing interviews together and were talking about what the content of this was going to be together. Through this work, we could always mention that the AfD are Nazis, and we kept on telling this message to the public. So after the demonstration, we continued to look at the fight for culture by the right. And it's not enough to have this one big demonstration, however great and colorful it was. But this fight is having an influence on all aspects of society.
It is not enough to fight against the bad sides of our society like this. The racism of the Nazis reached a new dimension in the last years. We've supported different actions, and we've been engaging in different actions and structures. We have been on the at the anti-racist We Come to Life protest in Hamburg. We have been at the G20.
We did a lot of anti-fascist bass music at different types of demonstration. Another action was the protest, which we did together with the What the Fuck group. It was against the Marsch für das Leben, which is a right-wing demonstration against women's rights, and the right-wing fundamentalists are calling to the streets for this for several years, and it's getting bigger, and they are refusing abortion and are comparing abortion to the Holocaust. Since 2014, these statements are reinforced by Beatrix von Storch, a politician of the AfD. There is often unregistered alliances
in the whole society, and we can see there pretty well how AfD is making connections out of the parliaments. One thing that was really big was trying to hinder the AfD sausage Nazis of their protest. There were hooligans, neo-Nazis and AfD marching together on the 9th of November in Berlin. The day of the November pogroms, the Reichspogromnacht, where the Nazis during Hitler time burned different Jewish stores and raided different anti-fascist resistance fighters have been making actions all over the city, and they beamed the flags you can see on the sticker all over the walls in Berlin. After that march of the right, the community who made it decided not to make any more actions together. So I will take over now. I will talk about, I will go with you on a meta level. I will talk about the question, what does anti-fascist resistance have to do with club culture? What does make club culture politics? The next points should be more of an inspiration. I don't have the wisdom in myself. There has been this...
Club culture creates rooms for societal change. Club culture and alternative club culture constructs spaces of alternative societies, and I'm not talking about big nightclubs here. Without a lot of restrictions, we are trying to find out our own lines here, and these safe spaces gives the opportunity to move around freely and find other levels of to find other utopias, always with the idea to take on responsibility for each other. Once you're in a club or at a festival, everyone is equal. I know it's not a space without hierarchies, but it's try to be a space bottom up. So these spaces are here to give space to diverse people, and it's about artistical expression and artistical ideas with light and construction. And clubs are often organized by the slogan, as much chaos as possible and as little rules as possible. And in the center, it's about exchange and connecting on a personal level and collaborating on a personal level. What does this mean in actual practical work? A lot of us are organized in collectives. This collective activism stands against a passive consumerism. The best example actually is the CCC here. Everything is constructed, hacked. Everyone can take part in this in their own way. Almost no one only is here to consume the content. So it's a lot of ways to experiment. There's a huge opportunity for creativity and to do what you would like to do. And it's the same at the Angel Heaven here at CCC or at the Helpers Desk at the festival. It's the same idea to be with as little hierarchies as possible, give everyone the opportunities to participate, give opportunities for working creatively. We don't just leave our hat at the entrance. Next to the opportunities to work in collectives, there's a huge network where we are sharing resources. And we are also sharing risks. We share knowledge. And there's a lot of informal work. Everyone can do everything. A lot of people in the club culture and in the festival culture are all-rounders. They are used to finding quick solutions to problems at hand. But how can we take this criticism and the societies we are creating, how can we take this to the outside? And here I see 3 potential points, the 3 M's, because I've said M so much. So bass music is loud and makes is a lot of fun. So we can use music to communicate. Dancing connects you to people and brings people to the street independently of your heritage. And protest can be fun and hedonism can be political. And it's without violence. And because we are doing this as a collective, it's with a lot of multipliers who can bring this to other people through their channels. And the more channels of communications we have, the more personal connections we have, the more people we reach. And this leads to a lot of potential for mobilizing. And then the question is, how do we agree on something? How can we agree to political positions and be able to act upon them? And the minimal consensus we have is the music, the dancing against right.
Exactly. And what is the attraction? The attraction also within of empowering their own structures. The organization of protests also has attraction to the inside. the Rosa statement was actually quite left radical and many people signed it. There was a repoliticization, but also during the organization of the protest, we were thinking about which people do we ask to play, which people do we ask to talk, and that's how new energies are made, and many people who beforehand didn't understand themselves as political now do say political things and feel political. Also, there is an attraction to the outside. We share our informations. We have how-to instructions about how do I do a demonstration, how do I do a workshop, how do I do a we share this to other cities also because we share music, and that's how the scene is already networked. There's a network also internationally, and there's much of sharing, and this brings courage and inspires us. We are also inspired by other people and networks. And this is also the point, other scenes. And one of the attractive things is doing things together. It doesn't have to be the case that there is anti-fascist resistance out of the club culture. That's not all that happens. There are many groups that organize anti-fascist resistance. This can be thing in different associations, in football clubs, in riding clubs. We all have one same position, and this is just a piece of a puzzle with other forms of protest. Now I will do a little
Gesellschaft, unsere freie Gesellschaft oder die Art und Weise.
Conclusion in the middle. The way we live in, the free, diverse, colorful life we live in is endangered from the right. We can do a better cultural work than the right, especially if it's about working with the youth. We mustn't forget that the party isn't over yet, but it's not only about the party. Club culture is not only a flight out of reality, but also is discussing changes within the society and shows critical positions. And one should not forget to ask oneself about one's own privileges. Of course, club culture is something for privileged people, but it also can be a safe space for minorities. Club culture is something that has the potential to be important for the majority and has mobilization potential. We have to make cultural production possible and take away the cultural production from the AfD and from the right. We are showing clear positions against right, and there is much room for self-reflection and development. And the most important thing is that this is out of a scene that is very different in itself, but has one same position, one thing they can see about. Now I give to Rosa.
Schönen guten Abend.
Good evening, CCC. 35C3, I should be more precise. We, the Rosas, are very happy to be here. Everything you've heard so far, or at least most of it,
liegt in der Vergangenheit, aber
is in the past, but a lot of it is showing us signs to the future. And this is what we want to talk about with you, not only right now during the presentation, but also afterwards. The conclusion we just saw is just about the culture we are doing personally, but we also mean all of you. In the end, we all have to question ourselves what questions are left and how does this relate to us? The movement towards right, the new fascist structures taking over, the discourse is nothing we can ignore from our point of view. We can't ignore this, not only because in the past it has led to extremes we don't want to go back to, but also because it is about our future. It's about all of us when people are being excluded, when we see nationalism rising. It's about all of us, these safe spaces we've been talking about, and the CCC and the 35C3 is a safe space for all of us, where we can play our game, where you can be yourself, you can follow your interests and learn together. In a new fascism, something like this would not be possible. Also, our club culture is being attacked. For example, just before this demonstration, the Bergheim was being attacked. Other Berlin clubs were also being under a lot of pressure by the right government. These safe spaces we have been working on collectively for a long time. This fascist system is questioning these spaces and is trying to delegitimize these spaces because we are fighting for a free society. So we should hold against that or just ignore them. We think it's not that one of these options is good on its own, but it depends very much on the situation. In some situations, we can just ignore them and they are just like doing their thing and are just putting in a lot of work and we are just ignoring them. But at other points in time, that's not possible. For example, at the day of the Reichsratsteilnacht, we can't just let this be, no matter how many people are going to the streets on there. We need to take a sign against this. Out of just our own work, our own production of culture, what can we do? A lot of people say we have to strengthen democracy. Well, we all have a lot of ideas how democracy could be and especially how it should not be. So the strategy might not always work, but in certain situations this is necessary, especially regarding minorities. If you look at the Mediterranean, where people are drowning because politicians are ignoring them, that's nothing that is allowed to happen. Seebrücke, a group who is working on the Mediterranean, is also here at Congress. I personally haven't met them, but we are working with them a lot. We are working with a lot of organizations and NGOs. We ourselves, we are not a formalized institution because we don't want to be this. We want to be flexible. We want to be without hierarchies, and we want to be here and not be involved according to our own possibilities. And demonstrations, protest is important. Every one of us should do this, especially if it's fun. It is a lot of work to organize this. We did a demonstration with 40,000 people joining us on the street, and a lot of clubs and groups organizing it. That's just a fancy. If we're looking at the other demonstration, Unteilbar, which was much more expensive, so doing it yourself is the key. And protesting is a lot of fun. It's not just annoying, it's not just standing in the rain, but it can be a lot of fun. At least that's what we are thinking. That was the second point. The third point is about free spaces. We need to save them. It's weird because it's in a exhibition hall, which usually tends to be very capitalist, but it's not about that, but it's about the content we are providing, that we are here together, that we are finding solutions together. So it's saving spaces for freedom is not only important for everyone personally, but where we personally can be free, but it's also about spaces where our neighbors can be free, everyone else can be free. Maybe your neighbors, maybe even your family, organize collectively your spaces of freedom, because if you don't have them, it gets very hard to show solidarity towards each other. And that's the basic foundation to fight against racism and fascism.
This is not only about what most people understand of emancipation, but it's more like an emancipatory way of doing things. Asking yourself, how do you speak? What are your structures of doing, and searching for new ways, for new solutions. And that's also what this Congress is. This Congress is a huge search machine for solutions, and this is what we are doing. We don't have all the solutions. We have colorful hairdoings, we have interesting contents, because we had a lot of trouble with Nazis, but tomorrow and the day after we will have to find new strategies, and we can only do that together. On the fifth part, resistance is not something that we can do like one time a year or maybe 5. It has to be something we do every day. We have to show solidarity with others. We have to learn new things. You have to learn new things for yourself. How can you show solidarity in your everyday life? No matter where, be it in school, in kindergarten, in university, in a free place in the city, how can you be solidarity? What do you do if there's a racial profiling control in the subway or in the city? Can you do something? Why don't people help the person who is searched? They don't know how to do it. They are afraid of getting problems themselves. This is understandable, but you have to teach yourselves how to react, how to help each other.
So, jetzt muss ich ein bisschen auf die Zeit schauen.
Okay, I have to look on the time. We have a little time left. I will talk a little faster. You can ask questions in the end. We will be at some workshops in the end where we can talk also. I will be here to ask also you, what are your contents? How can diverse groups or crews have a mutual voice? We tried this many times, but often it doesn't work. Open source, for example, is one voice we didn't use yet in the practice, because we are bound to materials, so we can learn new things about this. There can be new synergies with hackers, with people. Yeah. However, you see yourself, we as party people, club goers, Antifa, we need to go out of our bubble and do things together, and that's the point we want to strengthen here. How can a collective solidarity become more practical? We have to redistribute,
make visible, do research, do transnational networking. That's only possible if we are doing this with a lot of people. We often have trouble to find good arguments which are not only about us being angry, because is a lot of research which needs to be done, which is only possible if there are other people who are doing this research work who can do it better than we can. The next point is, how can this be in our everyday life? Everyone on their own and also as a collective or in relation to a collective. We can always be ourselves and have our own positions, but we can only realize stuff as a collective. How can we make the options to be information more accessible to everyone? How can solidarity work in everyday life? This is a praxis which is very common among hackers, so we can learn from you here. So how can we stand against fake news? We can learn this from each other. The third point is about mobilizing and sharing knowledge. It's about social media, collective writing. This is a lot of things. We who only are end users of IT stuff, or when we are employed, we are just end users, and we can learn from you about this. I don't even want to call the names like Facebook, but we rely on Facebook, for example, to do mobilization. So this is about sharing knowledge again.
Nächster Punkt.
The next point, the development and usage of new tools. What can we learn from you? A lot of resources. We were hearing about amateur radio. There are a lot of radio channels, and we interfered with one of them accidentally. And with when we have 50 radios on a demonstration, and if there is an interruption, that's kind of a disaster. Independent video productions and live streams. This is something you just easily do here, and for us this was a lot of work. Tools to work together collectively is hard for us because we don't want to use Google Docs, but Pirate Pad for us isn't enough. So again, we can learn from you. Also about visibility and creating visibility. How can we show that we want to protest together, that we want to do resistance together, beyond Instagram, beyond Twitter, and how can we build tools with which this becomes more easy? Next point, how can a lot of different topics, AfD, club, city development, be visible together without departing this into different institutions? A lot of the times, if stuff is repeated a lot of times, we build institutions to make it easier. But here it doesn't work because everyone as an individual needs to act and needs to act against the right. And if we start building institutions, this is a representation we don't want to have. So how can we work collectively and still be visible? And as a last point, we have been talking about this, is a network of cities and transnational work. How is this possible on a technical level? Translation, for example, is for us a big problem. Whew. And now for our sources, for video and pictures we have been using, you can check it back on this on the live stream. So first of all, thanks to you for listening. Stay active. And next is a quick overview about the workshops we would like to do with you.
Ich mache es auch ganz kurz.
I will shorten this.
We're
not only here to talk and to present, but we want to share information with you. So we're very happy to be here. we are happy to be part of Kommuna in Hall 2. This is also a self-organized space from different people, and we have done different workshops and sessions, and we want to discuss there the question we've brought here with you. Here we can only give short answers to your questions, but this night and tomorrow, there we can share things together. We can learn from each other, you from us, we from you, and this is only possible if we get together and we will see. Here you can see all the workshops you're doing together. I won't read them out now.
Jo, voll ist es hier.
It's really full here. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that there are so many beautiful and eccentric people. I hope you have many questions. How does it look? Don't be shy. There are microphones. 5 exactly.
Okay, die Nummer 1, bitte schön.
Okay, number 1, please.
Ja, hi.
Hi.
Total awesome, was ihr macht. Vielen Dank.
It's really awesome what you're doing. Thank you very much. On the one of the last files, you have ideas to develop further in some directions. Yes, this file. Yes, you want to connect to people who have more expertise than you on these areas. I can do a little social media stuff.
Okay.
There's applause now. For the other things, please help each other as much as you can. I'm not really a techie who can do media media design or things like that. Please help each other.
Und ihr könnt nachher mit zur Kommuna kommen. Ich bin auch mit da. Und auch viele aus der ganzen
you can all help out by being angels here, and you can also help out by going over to Kommuna later on. So, especially to the hackers among us, you can do this. You can save the world. Question from microphone number 2, please.
Hello. I had many thoughts. I just tried to get over to us and discuss this on the thing. I think it's very awesome. I'm not really in the club scene and I'm not from Berlin. I think that's very interesting. I really liked your presentation. It's not really a question, but it's something I had to think about. Not only with you, but with anti-fascist movements mostly. For me, it sounded like it's about defending things like safe spaces, defending safe spaces from pressure from the right. But I would wish for myself, not only from you, but from many people, who that you get active for also another society. This is something that is in these groups, but it's something that should be done more. And I think it would be great if we would not only be against right, and to think about things over fun and
so yes, that's what this is about. It's not only about fun, but it's also a lot of work. Question from number 1. Thank you for your work and thank you for your activism. My question to Rosa is, next year there's an elections, federal elections in Saxony, and that's a point where I have the question. Have you thought about standing in solidarity with the people in Saxony and to mobilize here against the AfD with a big demonstration, with a big event?
Very good question.
Yes,
I have to admit, I actually skipped one sheet. Of course, we know that there are those federal state elections and that are Europe elections, and there it will be it seems like the right parties have a big mobilization potential, while everything left from the CDU, everything that is more liberal or left, has only 50% mobilization potential. The right wing have 70%. So you can think that also in the Europe Parliament elections there will be more right votes, and this is not only a problem of Saxony. We don't know exactly if it makes sense to go from Berlin to Saxony. We asked this question also to collectives in Saxony who are, and they think they have to do this on their own. We can't really export help. We can speak about this in workshops. We can give them knowledge and resources. But if we really come, we haven't discussed yet really. I would like to say something about the questions about fighting for something, and I want to say Rosa says yes. Computer says yes too. Last question.
Thank you so much for your talk, for your presentation. And it's great that so many people have the opportunity to meet each other at this Congress. And when the person before asked about Saxony, and the answer was all right, but like be more specific. If you are invited from people in Saxony to help out, in 2 weeks there is a party meeting by the AfD here in Saxony, in Riesa, which is reachable in 2.5 hours from Berlin. It's also easy to reach from Chemnitz. There will be 1,000 members of the AfD coming there, and they want to start a nice year for 2019, and they have a lot of stuff to do, and there is a lot of resistance being organized. There is a call for a big demonstration, and there's also people like me. I was at the big demonstration in Berlin, and this demonstration wasn't really a demonstration. It didn't really feel like work. It was a lot of fun, and at the same time, it placed the AfD in, like, blocked the AfD. So I'm calling to you to have this also in Saxony, what you did in Berlin, that culture helps to counter what the AfD is doing.
Yes,
this is really great, and we're really happy that you've come to us, but one of the problems is that on the 12th of January there's also a very big demonstration in Berlin against the selling of the city, and also during New Year's, etc., there is much to do, and it's really difficult to mobilize over this time, over Christmas and New Year's. We haven't yet spoken about if we have the human power and the resources to actually do Berlin bleibt, Berlin stays, and Riesa at one day, but we can talk about this. Yes, I also want to say in May May we've planned something probably, and actually I have to say we are not such a big group, and in the culture of work it's also a problem. How much you're doing? Since the last protest of AfD wegpassen, we have been asked a lot, can't you come here, can't you come there? And we're a little in the situation that we have to see strategically how we can go on next year, and we will be there for sharing resources, for networking, for inviting to Berlin the people who want to organize something, probably also sitting together one weekend. And it would be really cool if you'd come to the workshop to network and to exchange contact data.
Darf ich noch?
May I?
Okay, also wir haben noch eine letzte Frage.
We have one last question.
Das Mikro behalte ich jetzt lieber mal.
I will
Signalengel,
take
hallo, deine Frage bitte.
Jo, fantastisch.
Question from the internet. We had a discussion in the IRC which question to take. We didn't want to talk about strategies by the AfD, but another question.
Was bedeutet im Hinblick
Nazis
often attack protests. And what is self-protection in an anti-fascist context for you?
Also es ist ganz klar,
it is clear that during protests from the size of AfD wegpassen, there aren't many policemen who can protect us because we have been much too large. And then there's the thing that we are many different kinds of people, and yes, we were many, and anti-fascist self-defense means that we have to defend each other, and we have to see who can do what and who wants to do what.
Also, war das eine Antwort auf deine Frage?
Was this a question? An answer for your question?
The delay is too much because the people on the internet are only on the live stream, which has a bunch of delay. But we hope this answer was a response to the question.
Ist aber auch ein Zungenbrecher, meine Güte. Also, wir danken euch ganz herzlich.
We thank you so much. A huge round of applause, and every one of us will be coming over to Kommuna. You have been listening to the attempted translation by Ms. Sensei and